answer.
I ask again until you get the right answer.
And we can't have it at the time of a state election.
Primary.
Yeah,
That's too bad.
because that was the logical time.
Yeah,
So there's a state primary, but there's also the state
Yeah.
general that'll be in November, which would even be better.
So forgive me if I forget the answers, because I know we asked some of this.
Yeah.
Between Kevin and we'll reach out and clarify when it can be done, whether or not the spring is too late, that sort of thing. So there's finishing that process up. The other part of it, which is the one that I was really languishing over, is that according to the charter, once the charter amendments are adopted, we need to consider forming the general bylaw review committee. And the charter specifically says that 2 members of the charter review committee have to be members of the bylaw review committee. Because I forgot to change
We got
that
one
provision.
set.
They all moved.
Yeah, I know. You can see why I'm.
But just because they live out of town, we can still get them.
Charter.
So anyways,
change that charter.
yeah, if I was smart, I would have.
He likes all these things, don't he?
You can always vote down the charter.
That's true. They can start all
Yeah.
over.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. So anyways, I'm not really looking for any action from the board this evening. I'm just saying that you know, maybe I'll work with Kevin, if the board's amenable, like, to have some answers to the timing questions. And then I don't really necessarily, I don't necessarily think we have to wait until the election that approves it to consider forming the bylaw review committee, especially if we're gonna push it off until next May.
Well, let's just figure out the vote on the charter first, and we'll worry about the bylaw committee.
I would be
Once
surprised.
we get a definitive
I would be
answer on that.
surprised if you can't have it during a general election with a separate ballot.
Well, let's find out.
That's fine.
Well, let's cross our fingers and to be pleasantly surprised that
Sooner versus later.
a
would be
reasonable
nice for it
thing can be done.
for it to go away. That's all I had.
Don?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
David?
Yeah, I got a couple things. First off, Jimmy McDonald, deadline, I think July 1 was his deadline on
July 30th, yeah.
July 30th.
Yeah, I gotta follow up with council on where they're at with they were actually filing I might screw it, 81Y, something, it's a planning land use thing. Yeah,
I've dealt with that.
I got a status.
Who's
on-
filing that?
Town council is.
Okay.
That was moving forward. Again, it's a breach of the second contract in the sense that he signed it but failed to provide a bond. So they're going through the court process.
Are
Okay.
you going to get us a definitive discussion on that next meeting?
Yeah, I can get it, yep.
I want to thank Andrew specifically and Kevin on peripherally, and the DPW for some quick work they did this week in response to a citizen's request for some issues with some streetlights, and it was excellent customer service. The citizen is elated, so thank you for the good work. Lastly, Brendan had mentioned last night about something that he and I had discussion on this year's goals meeting. And actually, this isn't lastly, I got one other thing. And I do think we should try to select a date. We've been remiss in recent years in actually going forward with that and selecting a date, just doing it and getting it done. An informal, it meets the open meeting law, but we don't necessarily meet here. It's a very informal discussion. We can invite various stakeholders and create our goals for the 2015
Yeah, we just.
year.
to
And I think we
follow
should
up,
do it. I think we should set a date.
We
and
did that last
yeah.
year, I think September 10th. It was a separate meeting. It was held at the police station. It probably.
Yeah, we
I'll
did.
meet with,
That's right.
Yeah, we can figure out where that's gonna be, but I think it logical, there's actually 5 Tuesdays in September. I've already started to look at that. It's logical, particularly what I was looking at is, if we're looking at, Brendan had raised this last night, if we're potentially looking at inviting the town planner, it probably, potentially warrants maybe the September 30th, just so we're not in conflict with the planning board meetings of the second,
Yeah, and
our first 2.
I guess
think
my
that's
own-
the last Tuesday, or we do it an off day.
yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm a little bit sensitive about waiting that long.
Yeah, so.
And I mean, on my iPad, we all have our iPads. We can probably try to pick a day that kind of works, or at least identify 2 candidate days. Because I think so. I guess that's my recommendation. Let's identify 2 candidate days that we feel we can probably pull off. From my perspective, the stakeholders are obviously Andrew and Kevin. I think Bill is the other Bill. Is a stakeholder as well, given the planner's sort of scope of responsibilities, and then of course you invite other people to come. It's an open meeting, but
Are Thursdays a safe day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because I mean, my preference would be to more August than September.
Yeah, me too. So do we want to pick like?
August 7th?
Well, so I would.
Starting at the top of August.
Yeah, so I would say August 7th and August 14th, and the reason I pick both, if we, like, I don't know what Bill's personal availability is. I mean, you guys are here, you can speak to your availability in it, but I'd like to pick 2. And then then Bill, as the chair, can work with Kevin to zoom in on which one it's
Yeah,
going to be.
we'll actually have for the next meeting, which we do annually, is what I'd like to do is have the entire calendar approved for which we did it starting effective August of this year. We lay out all of the meeting dates, and we've included that special meeting in there at a off-site location, meaning not in this room. So if we can, we'll look at those dates and.
So is everybody okay with holding the 7th and 14th for a week or till
Yeah, that works.
Should be all set.
figure out
Yeah.
whether it's doable?
Yeah. I'll put it in the computer.
And then finally, and then we can get out of here. I happen to be reading a regional paper from another community that discussed a affordable housing unit complex that was being built. Happens to be the community of Shrewsbury that this development is going into. And interestingly enough, the developer is none other than Capital Group. And I think it's an interesting piece of information, because I think we ought to get our hands on their filings so that we can compare and contrast some of the statistics that they provided to that community versus those that they provide to Maynard, so that we can begin to build our case on what our infrastructure needs might be, et cetera. And
Sorry, you said that was Shrewsbury?
it was Shrewsbury, yeah. One of the things that they say is and I don't remember the specific numbers that were estimated for their 250 unit proposal for Maynard for school children, but this 160 unit seems to be higher than what they were proposing for Maynard's 250 unit. Now, granted, you don't know bedrooms and everything else, but they're saying that they're estimating 74 to 82 school children for the district with a 160 unit bedroom, 160 unit development, 40B. That number, I don't remember specifically what number they gave to Maynard for the 250, but I believe it was much lower than 74 to 82 school children. So I'd like to see the analysis as to why they're saying that many school children in Shrewsbury versus the number that they gave to Maynard. In addition, and this is important as we go forward and continue to discuss potential opportunities with the developer on their current proposal. In addition, this 160 unit affordable housing complex estimates 1,020 car trips per day, which I think is significantly lower than the number that they estimated. I mean, significantly lower, correct, than higher than the number, significantly higher than the number that they estimated for Maynard's 250 unit complex. So I'd like to see where the analysis is and where it is, and I think we can grab, that must be public record when they file with the state. And I think and if it's not, I'd like to ask the developer if they'd be willing to share that with us when it comes time for them to begin to discuss with us. And that brings up the third point, is I mentioned a few weeks ago that they had written to us saying that they were interested in talking about residences and et cetera. I think we should have them in. I think we should have that discussion. And I, again, suggest that we reach out to them and say, hey, if you want to talk to us about residences, we're open for it. But I'd like to be able to see their information as to how it, the analysis differs from what information we may have been given before. I'd be willing to share this with the board if anybody's interested.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be curious of the article, but
Which paper?
more important.
It's not a real paper. It's in, it's sort of like the, it's called Community Advocate. It's out of Marlboro.
I mean, Kevin, it would be useful if you could pass that along to Planner Bill and
Yeah.
find out his thoughts about it.
That's a good idea.
Versus Selectmen bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, are we gonna have to start using that terminology? Planner bill?
I don't know, good bill, bad bill, I don't know.
New bill,
Nemser.
New bill versus, you want new versus old bill?
new bill.
Ah,
That
yeah,
is-
right.
That is all, and I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Wait a minute, we haven't gotten to me yet.
Oh, sorry, Bill. I thought we did.
I'm on a theme here, because I'm all liquor license here.
Okay.
And I got 2 questions, and then something I think we have to do. Are we making progress on putting together a home rule petition to get more licenses?
Yes.
Okay.
We received the information from Representative Hogan, her office and staff, specifically with regards to quotas and a template to utilize.
And you did note that the new proposed legislation to open up the numbers was approved for the Senate
Correct.
Economic Development Bill. It did not make it into the House's bill. Senator Eldridge had told me a few weeks back that he was going to fight hard in committee to have it included in the final bill, and I believe he is on the committee that's going to be debating that particular bill, so.
He is.
Yeah. So that'd be good. And then the other one is, I saw in the packet, the notice to Jamie and Kate about our desire for that, but we'd also talked about last meeting the inactive license on Powder Mill and a notification to the holder that there's expectations that it'd be active by renewal time.
Right.
Have we put anything together on that yet?
Did send them notice. I had a follow-up on.
Okay, I just didn't see anything in the packet.
Yeah,
that's
no,
all.
that's a good point. We did, they have been notified and were provided with the requirements to provide an update to the board, so.
Okay, and then lastly, we have 5 copies of a notice of decision that actually was circulated to us earlier by email or something.
Last
maybe.
night, I thought we got it.
Was it?
Had copies were provided to.
Oh, yeah,
to
that was
you.
last night. Yeah, that's right. We were
Wasn't
here
that
last
long
night.
ago. Yes, we were.
So Kevin, what do you want us to do with it?
Hopefully the board has read it, reviewed. I know Bill did. Provided a couple of typo corrections. But it's been some time and the board needs to take action on it. It's actually only the 4 of you minus Jason that could approve and sign it. And it's the formal final decision that they need.
And we would sign each of these copies?
Yes,
Okay. I mean,
they'll be then attested by the town clerk.
Basically, I would move to approve the written decision, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah.
now, Kevin, I just have one comment on item number 7, and under the findings, it says the fact that 18 months will pass before the applicant actually exercises its rights under the license serves as grounds for denial of the transfer. Part of, at least my concern was the license had already been inactive for 18 months. Is that covered sufficiently in finding number 6? The talk about pocket licenses?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I've had that same conversation with council in this, and they actually have heard and seen it all. So they've taken that file and have transcribed basically that document of that hearing.
Very good. All right, so I'll make a motion that we approve the notice of decision for the Skylight LLC's application to transfer an all-alcohol license to Capital Group Properties regarding the meeting on May 20th, 2014.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you. And
Just want to announce the vote because they're recording it.
it's 5-0. And we all need,
Abstained.
I'm sorry, it was-
One abstention.
very good. It was 4-0 to 1 abstention. And Brendan, Don, David, and I will be signing these documents. But otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Now, that one was unanimous, 5-0. Thank you. All right. Who wants to sign?